and thanks for joining us for another edition of Good Question. You know, you hear a lot about the government of Guam's finances. Are they better? How much better? Seems like a lot of people are getting raises. Will you get a raise? What does that Hay study mean? Oh, hey, we've got Benita Manglonia with us in the studio tonight. She'll be joining us and answering some questions about the Hay study, about a deficit reduction, yes?
Yes.
About the difference between cash position and appropriations and budgeting. You'll explain all of that in like a half an hour?
We'll try.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, that we would try, but we will try. My name is Travis Coffman. This is Good Question. Benita Manglonia joins us tonight from the Department of Administration. We'll be back with more right after these.
Fox 6 takes Guam's #1 rated news and talk radio station, News Talk K57 to TV. Watch Fox 6 every weekday as our PNC cameras feature the live in-studio environment of The Breakfast Show with Ray Gibson, Patty Arroyo on the radio, and The Big Show with Travis Coffman on News Talk K57. Enjoy an entertaining televised look at Guam's most popular talk shows. Tune in to Fox 6 every Monday through Friday from 6 to noon, and then again from 4 to 6 to see what's on the radio.
Help make a difference in our community and join the fight against crime. Tune in to PNC News every Wednesday night at 6 on ABC 7 and on Fox 6 at 7 p.m. for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week. Each week, the Guam Police Department will highlight an unsolved crime, hoping you may have information relating to the case. Join Crime Stoppers Coordinator Officer Paul Tapao every Wednesday night on PNC News for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Travis Coffman from The Big Show on News Talk K57. This is K57's attempt to bring the issues to you. We need to find out more information. I'd like to welcome Benita Manglonia from the Department of Administration for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you, Travis. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you. I really appreciate it. It seems like that we're starting off the new year in a pretty good position financially. The information that I hear from the governor's office seems to be slowly but surely getting better as far as things like deficit, as far as police officers getting raises, things like that. You had a pretty big year as far as financial benchmarks, yes?
Yes. And if you recall, we have done an amazing transformation within the last 3 years. If you recall, the first year when we first came in, the governor did a very unpopular decision of suspending the Hay study.
Right, and people thought, well, there it is. It's all downhill from here. Once he gets elected, no raises, hasta la vista.
Yeah, but you know, he had a vision in mind that, you know, in order for us to pay our bills, we have to stabilize his government first. So that's what happened.
Okay, well,
and
I mean,
it's been 3 years, so it's been 3 long years.
Yeah, it's easy to say. It's
yes.
hard to do. And
yes, that's correct.
One of those aphorisms in government is that nobody wins elections on austerity, on
right.
austere financial measures. People think, hey, if we cut back, then I'm never going to get a raise. We're not going to hire people in the departments, and we're going to run the government on essentially nothing. But that's not actually what happened.
No.
Maybe you could kind of walk us through, in sort of a simple sort of way, how, I mean, as simple as you can. I know it's more complicated than this, but how do you take a government that's in so much financial trouble and get them back on the right pace?
Well, it's not as simple as how everybody thought it was going to be. First of all, the first thing the governor did was suspended the Hay, and then he cut his salary by 10%. If you recall that, and I think it's very easy for people to forget that, that the governor and his senior staff gave up 10% of their salary for about a year.
Okay.
Until the tax refunds were paid. So we floated the bond, and we worked very hard for that too. You know, we had a lot of oppositions against floating the bond, but we managed to succeed and look at where we're at now.
Yeah, during that process, there was one lawmaker in particular that I think was quoted as saying, you know, I'd rather owe the people of Guam than owe the bank. And I think a lot of people are afraid to owe the bank. And it struck me as it's almost like your brother-in-law coming over going, hey, now I can't get a loan, but could you borrow me $100? And it kind of comes off like that. You're still in a bad financial position. It just depends on who you owe. How did switching the debt improve our financial position?
Well, we're able to pay off all the tax refunds, and we were able to catch up. And, you know, ask that to the taxpayers, ask that to all the parents, the grandparents, the children that are waiting for that tax refund so that they can pay for their uniforms, they pay for tuition, pay for food. And, you know, we're able to do that. We're able to go and get a very good bond rating. We got an A. And, you know, that translates into a very low interest rate, and we're able to pay the tax refunds.
Initially, some of the comments from the business community were reluctant to support the bond as well. Wait a minute, you're going to borrow a bunch more money, refinance this debt, and then I think the concern was that the debt would never pay off, because the government of Guam has tried this maneuver before. We're going to borrow money, and then we're going to be more financially responsible. What in the past, we've borrowed money and then spent more money.
Well, the thing here is you need to look at the whole picture. It's not only the tax refunds. It's not only you have to look at the vendor payables. You have to look at it in a global sense. That you know, you have to ensure that when you submit your budget and you submit your revenue source, that revenue source is going to come in. Because if you submit a budget and then the revenue source doesn't come in, and then you appropriate more than the revenue that's coming in, then, you know, it's going to be a cycle that repeats itself.
And that's what we've been doing, saying, okay, we're budgeting this much for maintenance, and then we don't pay the maintenance costs, and we spend that money on something else.
That's
so
correct.
Then you have the maintenance costs still unpaid, and you've purchased something else even in worse situation. And then the other thing is, what the government of Guam has done over the years is just sort of, they just seem to forget about people they still owed at the end of the year. They're like, well, the year's over, and last year's budget was something else.
Yeah, they have sacrificed the tax refunds for many years, and that translates into over $300 million, and the tax refunds have never been paid on time for the last 20 years, and this is the first year that we had paid all the tax refunds that were error-free for that were filed that year, and we paid refunds up to filings up to December 24th, and that's a record.
This has never happened.
It's never happened before.
Now, is our financial position, are we bringing in more money?
We're bringing in more money. We're managing our cash better because we have a cash flow that we look at on a regular basis, and we project if we're going to not receive enough money for that month, and then we reserve so that we can have enough cash to pay the obligations that's needed for the following month, because the collections for the government doesn't come in the same amount every month. There's months that we don't bring in enough to sustain the disbursements for that month. So you have to look at it.
Well, and that's one of the things that comes up in the news frequently. People criticize the fact that the governor doesn't disperse the entire budget for every department. He holds a little bit back. And that's based on how much money that you actually have collected. Not how much money was budgeted, but how much is collected. You want to make sure.
And that's a management tool that this administration has used effectively, and look at where it's led us to. Now, we are paying tax refunds, we're paying vendors. You know, when we first came in, there were vendors that were owed over a year. But now we are more timely with our vendor payables. As long as it gets to Department of Administration in a timely manner, we try to get it up, to get it paid within 90 days or less.
And on top of all of that, you had vendors, you had taxpayers that were convinced they would never see their refund. You had vendors that were reluctant to do business with the government of Guam because they didn't want to get paid. But then, besides that, you had other obligations. You had people that had already incurred debt with the government of Guam for things like civil service rulings, or things like money that was owed to them for work that they did and they still hadn't been paid for. It seems like everybody was promised money, but everybody was waiting for money. And recently you've been able to take on some of that as well. Welcome back. You're watching Good Question. I'm your host, Travis Coffman from News Talk K57's The Big Show. You can watch me and listen every afternoon on News Talk K57. We're actually on TV from 4 to 6 every afternoon, and you can watch Ray Gibson on The Breakfast Show along with Patty Arroyo every morning on News Talk K57. That's Monday through Friday. Tonight, we bring you another edition of Good Question, and Benita Manglonia is with us here tonight answering some of our questions. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it, and thanks over the years for helping me out with all this financial information. I mean, I'm a liberal arts graduate, for goodness sakes. I don't know anything about money, but I do know, for example, when I'm not getting paid, like everybody else, they know what they're not getting paid, why they make the decisions they do. Let me ask you this: why did you were doing great in the private sector, and you decided, I'm going to come to work for the government of Guam, from all places? You're from Rota originally, yes?
Yes, yes.
What convinced you to come to
well,
Guam?
we moved the family to Guam in 1996, but I was still working in the CNMI up to about 2006, 7. And then I opened my practice here in Guam, my CPA practice.
Right, things were going well, and you
Yes.
thought, you know what I want to do? I want a giant pay cut and a lot of headaches. I want to work for the government of Guam. No, that couldn't have been what you thought.
Well, I was asked by the administration to help, and I wanted to give back to the community.
Well, I tell you
It's
what.
public service.
And I think certainly you've had a lot of public service opportunities since taking this job. What do you think is the hardest part about working for a government, working with a government?
Well, the hardest part was in the beginning of the administration was everyone was asking for their money, and when somebody sat at my door and practically begging me to pay him his tax refunds because he didn't have any money for his medications, that just broke my heart, and that gave me more incentive to help out and get this government stabilized and work with the administration, work with the fiscal team, and try to get their tax refunds paid on time. It's all these people that need their money, that need to go off island, and there's thousands of them.
What do you think the biggest misconception is when it comes to the government and money? What do you think people don't understand most about finance?
The biggest misconception is when the budget is passed and then everyone is appropriated a certain amount of money. They think that because it's appropriated, the cash is there. That's not right. It's appropriated, and one thing it's appropriated, and the other thing is, we have to wait until the cash comes in.
And so it's a guess. It's a really good guess. We were taking all of our financial experts and guessing this is how much money we're going to collect this year. But you can't spend it until you actually collect and have money.
That's correct.
Okay, so operating on a cash basis, I hear that a lot. That's the kind of
Yes.
thing you're talking about.
So that's why it was very critical for us when we first came in to work with develop that cash flow model, because it's how you can plan ahead for the year, when you're going to pay certain things, when the cash is anticipated to come in, and when it's not going to come in, and that's how you have to work with the cash situation, because otherwise it's not going to work.
Well, I have to say, this is a pretty good trick to say we've gone through financial austerity. We've gotten control of the cash situation. We've tightened down, and because of that, we're going to be able to meet some more of our obligations. We're going to be able to move forward with the partial implementation of the Hay study. Is it a partial, or what kind of phases basically are you looking at?
Well, I will leave that to the governor to make that announcement, but we are looking at implementing the Hay implementation, because we have taken care of our tax refunds, we have taken care of the promised compensation, we have taken care of the law enforcement, and now we have to look at the government employees as a whole, because they have been unfairly not being treated, not given their fair share too. Their pay scale is the pay scale is 20 years old, and it's time that these employees are given their raise.
Okay, well, I realize that until an official announcement is made from the governor and everybody agrees on the fiscal team about how you feel you can move forward, can you get me a little bit closer to the ballpark here as to what the government of Guam would be able to implement at this point? Best case scenario, and then a more modest scenario.
Well, Travis, I know you're trying to get it out of me, but I told you earlier, it's the governor's going to make that announcement, and we are looking at the implementation of the hay. But
Right.
Until that time is until we're done with our review, then we can't release that. But we are supposed to submit the plan to the legislature by the 15th, so we are still working. The team's still working on
if we're looking for a time frame, at least look for around the 15th.
That's correct.
Okay, fair enough. You should be so lucky to have someone like Benita Manglonia working with you, who will not divulge information, even though I really would like to have it. We're going to have to wait until the 15th. Benita Manglonia is with us tonight on Good Question. Now, when you're putting together these kinds of plans, these kind of gestures, who are the members of the team that are essential to this process?
It's the fiscal policy team.
And who's that?
It's DOA, BBMR, Revenue and Tax. We also have GITA in there. We have GVB. Sometimes they come in. That makes up the fiscal policy team.
Okay. Well, I hear your name tossed about. I hear the name Bernie Artero,
yes,
as mentioned. As what does Bernie do?
She's our chief financial advisor.
Chief financial advisor.
Yes.
Okay. And so you collaborate frequently with her
regularly
to find out what's going on. To find out, hey, in the early days, we don't have enough money to make payroll. Any suggestions, anyone? Tell me about this process. I didn't realize that this happened, that in the early days of the administration, there were times that you actually needed to go to businesses in the community and say, hey, you think maybe you could pay your taxes a little bit early?
Actually, that was within DOA. That was my responsibility to ensure that everybody gets paid. So that was a big headache on, it was a big responsibility to make sure that the employees are paid. So we made certain policy changes to ensure that all the employees get paid and vendors get paid.
So and, no payless paydays for sure.
No payless paydays. If you recall back then, employees, you'll see them lining up at the bank at lunchtime or in the morning. So we had to make policy changes, and we release checks later in the afternoon now.
Oh, I see.
Because of the cash situation, and sometimes the treasurer of Guam would have to make collections that day and go to the bank and deposit just so that we could meet payroll. So those are the things that we've done that people don't really know that happen. But that's how we've done that, and look at where we're at now.
Well, yeah, at the time you don't want to go, yes, well, by the way, we scrounge up enough money in the couch cushions and from people that owe us or are going to owe us, and luckily we're going to be able to make payday. So today, do you have to do that now?
We are managing our cash now.
That's not exactly an answer of do you ever ask people to pay taxes early. Do you still do that occasionally?
No, I don't do that. I don't do that anymore.
Does anyone do that anymore?
I don't think that we've called taxpayers anymore to come in and pay.
For a while now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, and you've got good reviews from little small organizations like Standard & Poor's, Bloomberg, the people that rate our bond. Our credit rating is better.
And if you recall, S&P lowered the credit rating for the U.S. while they upgraded Guam. So that's a big statement for Guam.
It is, because people for years have used the credit rating of the United States as the gold standard to beat the CNMI and Guam with. Look at how responsible they are, and look at how irresponsible you are. And now, at least with Guam's situation, thanks to you and members of the fiscal team and the governor, the situation is reversed.
Yes, and I have to give credit to the governor because he has flown with us, and he has been at those bond rating presentations, and that has a major impact because he's there and he's stating what we're going to be doing, and now there is a very high investor confidence in the Guam bonds, and that's reflected also in the recent Guam bonds for GWA. They got an A rating. And I went to one of the bond rating presentations too, and the fiscal team is involved in that. And in the past, it was just they go on their own and they do their own presentations. But with all the GovGuam, with all the autonomous agencies, bond rating floats, we get involved. And so they look at now the bond raters. They look at the GovGuam as a whole.
As a whole.
As a whole.
Sure,
yeah.
okay. And that had to be, at least for you at the time, when our credit rating started to get better, that had to be a little bit of validation for you. For
Yes.
those who are like, who is she? She doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah. So I think we've been continuously been validated by third parties that this administration is taking, the Gov Guam and Guam in the right direction, and look at where we're at now.
This is a story with a happy ending, I think, where you may end up getting your raise, the one that somebody else promised you. Benita Manglonia is with us this afternoon. With third parties evaluating our credit, her credit stock goes up. She gets to look at those that doubted and said, no, sir, it's you that didn't know what you were talking about. How you like me now. But she's too classy to say that, but I would. My name is Travis Coffman. This is Good Question. We'll be back to wrap it all up right after these.
Burn up the bandwidth. Guam's hottest talk comes to your smartphone with News Talk K57's streaming apps. The latest in news, weather, and talk in the palm of your hand. Plus, exclusive features let you talk back to us via email. Visit our webpage and see breaking news on PNC's Twitter page. Smartphone users can now download the free app, which will stream all day, every day, and anywhere. Look in your platform's app store for K57 and download it today.
Help make a difference in our community and join the fight against crime. Tune in to PNC News every Wednesday night at 6 on ABC 7 and on Fox 6 at 7 p.m. for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week. Each week, the Guam Police Department will highlight an unsolved crime, hoping you may have information relating to the case. Join Crime Stoppers Coordinator Officer Paul Tapao every Wednesday night on PNC News for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. You gotta like that.
What's not to like?
Like.
I like that.
Ooh, I like.
Oh, I definitely like that.
That too. I like that one.
I like it. Like, that's weird.
I like this. Yeah.
There's a whole lot of liking going on. That's right, we're too cool not to like. Like us on Facebook today. What do you like?
I like it.
I liked that yesterday.
Welcome back to Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. Tonight's guest, Benita Manglonia from the Department of Administration. Tonight we've gone through the what was to project as to what is the situation. January 15th, we understand, is when you'll be filing a report with the legislature talking about plans to implement the Hay study.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, other financial concerns, big ones at that, took place recently where the government acquired property in Tijen. I think we need a whole nother program to go through all of that. But what's the basic mindset as far as purchasing that particular school?
Well, you look at, the issues with the education that's going on island, that, the overcrowding with GW and the governor's mission of educational transformation. He's transformed finance, so now we're looking at, education. He's always advocated education, but we have this opportunity to purchase the Tijen property, and the Central High School is going to go there.
Okay. Now, in the coming year, are you going to be tasked with finding more money for education?
Well, we've always worked closely with education. I work closely with John Fernandez to ensure that they get their cash, basically. So as far as finding revenues for education, I think that would be the legislature.
Oh, okay. So the legislature needs to help out, to help find some resources, and you'll help out in the. I think we've learned one thing tonight. It's cash management.
Yeah.
And if the resources are there and the commitment is there, you can help to make sure that the money gets where it's supposed to. Now, quickly, we got like a minute. The hospital bond, they're asking for $25 million, and there's a couple of other bonds going with that, it seems like?
It's a loan.
A loan?
Yes.
Oh, okay, it's just a loan to pay off vendors.
Yes.
So that they can sort of follow the model of, ironically, the government
we
of
help the
Guam.
hospital. We work closely with the hospital. We're trying to help assist them.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems familiar when they're talking about making vendor payments and making
Yes.
sure they have enough resources.
And
to keep
it's
things
one of the things that we give money to regularly on a weekly basis is the hospital.
Oh, I see.
The hospital and DOE.
So the better off that the hospital is with cash management, the better off the government's going to be.
That's correct.
You're better off, the DOE is with cash management, the better off the government's going to be.
That's correct.
We covered a whole lot of material in a really short time this evening. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Hey, listen, if we've got more questions about finances, where should we go? To the website? Should we call somebody at the office? I know you're busy. Call Troy Torres. Who should we call?
Just call us.
Just call. It doesn't matter. Just call. I like that. I like your attitude, and I like hosting this program. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening. My name is Travis Coffman. This has been another edition of Good Question. Thanks for listening.